Hello, this will be a lesson on how to write functionality. This is the most basic you can get when scripting is writing stuff. There's a lot of context that comes with writing, but when you do things, you have to know how to do them. So the best way to look at this is in this form of the class, method, and parameter way of thinking about things. So if I want to write something, I will 100% of the time utilize the class. I will utilize methods in the class, and I'll utilize parameters that are from the method. So it's linear. So I go from the class to the method, to the method to the parameter. Each one of these relies on the other to make functionality. So in order to do this, though, you have to recall. You have to recall and remember your classes. So classes, and then you have to remember the methods that are in the classes, and you also have to remember the parameters that methods take. Methods in classes. So a theme that when dealing with coding is that everything is a hierarchy. At the top, we have classes, right? Classes are at the top of the big triangle. If I make a big old triangle here, right? And then down, we would have methods, because methods rely on classes. And in methods, after methods, we would have parameters. To get to one, you have to use another. Just simple as that, right? So, what are the actual classes and methods we can use to create functionality? So, I went ahead and made a short list of general stuff that you can utilize. Right? So if I wanted to create a script that moves this object towards a player, how would I go ahead and doing that? So if we're thinking in the scope of writing functionality, we need to use the class, method, and parameter way, right? That is what we're doing. So what is the class that moves stuff? And we're talking physics. Obviously, it's rigid body. So there I have my declaration for rigid body, right? What's the methods that are in rigid body? Add force, right? Add force is a method inside of rigid body. So if I were to write the update, I go rb.add force, and then I have my parameters here. See how we're going class method, and then parameter. The parameters that add force takes are a vector 3, so we can go transform.forward, and then it takes a force mode a force mode. So boom, we just wrote the functionality for moving towards a direction, specifically transform.forward, using the class, method, and parameter way of thinking about coding. So if you wanted to create a target called player, we can do that. Transform target, right? And we want to look at the target we want to move at, right? Or actually, let's call this target player because we're trying to move towards the player, right? So if I wanted to compound the moving forward with looking at a player, I can. I'll access the transform, and I'll do .look at target player. There you go. So here we have class, method, parameter. It's the same thing every single time. Just think of writing functionality just like this. It'll be the same exact thing every time. Now, obviously, the script doesn't work because we would need to initialize RB and assign target player in inspector. So when you're looking at code, make sure you realize that things always need improvement, right? All right, second example. Remember, we are using class, method, parameter. I spelled that wrong. Parameter. Okay. If I were to create a jump class, right? Let's get rid of this. Using the class, method, parameter way of thinking, what are the classes I need access to jump, right? Classes. Hold on. Classes. So if we're jumping, we're adding force in a direction, right? So obviously we need rigid body because we're doing physics. What are the methods in rigid body? Dot add force. Boom. There you go. That's all you need. Right. So, and actually, if we're doing jump, we probably need some sort of input, right? So we can do that by using the, guess what, input class. Input. And then what methods does input use? Dot get key. Amazing. Or get key down. So if I were to write this in update, I can do, using the class method parameter way of thinking, I can go if input as a class dot get key down key code dot space, and I can go create a rigid body instance here. Hold on, rigid body RB, and I can go RB dot add force. Again, we're using class method, right? And then parameter. So rigid body, again, we know we know what add force takes. It takes that vector 3. So we're going to use transform dot up this time, force mode dot impulse. So again, here we go. Input, the class, right? That's the class. Method is a part of the input class, right? So that's how we're accessing it. And then RB dot add force. Everything's a hierarchy. Just the way of thinking about it. I will post more about this. I'll expand it a little bit and post it on Discord so you can have a look at it yourself. Feel free to ask any questions.